I want to introduce my best friend, Cole Harmon, how he can buy a house a year, even in the situation he's in right now.
Tell me how. This reminds me of when I went to the news station. They were showing us like how they do the news, right? And you look in this camera, and I don't know where to look right now.
So how many cameras we got here?
Which one's the action shot? Channel 5, right here. Herb McGurdy over here.
Full-time job and studying at the same time, and you have 3 kids and happily married. What's that like?
So imagine you work a full-time job, and then you get home, and then your day starts. Because I want to be like a full-time sound designer in the game biz.
You have a little history with sound.
About 10 years ago, around the time I met you, is when I started seriously like writing songs. Started a band. I've recorded like albums in world-class studios. When I found out that this was a job that I could do and people would actually pay me for it, I was like, no way. Like I could spend 12 hours, not even eat, and feel like it was 10 minutes. Like I love it. If that's the way I can support my family, I'm so down for that.
Well, I remember you were living in our house and you'd be playing your guitar. It was raw. And to see that progression from where you started, you've won contests and now you're in this industry. The hard work and the grit that you've shown is so incredible. No, you aren't like this rich kid or you haven't hit it huge with a record deal. You're a guy that has serious grit and you get things done. Tell us about how hard you practice guitar. Because I would go by your apartment or even in our basement and you'd be playing for hours.
When they look at the people out there who are truly like savants at something, the one factor that they have in common really is that they put the time in. They have the fascination, they have the desire, and they put in the time. They can become better than somebody who has natural talent. There's days where I definitely like the last thing I want to do is sit and stare at lines of code. You know, I see what I want at the other side of that and it's able to like motivate me. There's also a satisfaction in knowing that you didn't let something stop you. It's not easy, but there's a rush that I think a lot of people don't know about just on the other side of like really tough obstacles.
There's been several times I've seen you with incredible grit, getting the album together and putting that band together. Mm-hmm. And today you have the high profile job right now that makes money is what?
Yeah, no, I just work at the grocery store.
I follow a lot of stories, very successful people, and they all have the same story. Mm. They're on the same trajectory in the beginning where they did hard stuff and they stocked shelves or did something along those lines to get to the place they wanted to be.
Truly living, I think there's a point where you begin to see like into the future and you say like, I'm doing everything I'm doing now so that I can get there. That's what I'm looking for. Going back to the home buying thing, you know, really like, what is the vision that you're buying into? Like, what is the thing that you see at the other side of this? It's probably to live the kind of life that you want to live, to support your family, make sure that your kids have inheritance. I've played guitar my whole life, but what really changed was all of a sudden I have an idea for an album. And then that changed everything. Like now I can't sleep, I can't eat, I can't think right, I can't do anything until that album is in my hands and I can hold it. Killer. Like it's so much work to record an album. I knew in my head, like I hear the music.
Where would they find those albums right now?
Glowing Moses, that's my band, and we're on every, you know, streaming service and Bandcamp and all that, YouTube. So it's just Glowing Moses. And our latest album, which was like basically 2 years in the works, is called Event Horizon.
There was a time you had a label that you signed with, and that was complete failure.
We made an entire album. And then it got scrapped. Yes, we finished an entire album, recorded it all on location, and then through a wild set of circumstances, it will never see the light of day.
But you got back up.
It's horrible.
Because I remember...
Imagine building a house.
And it's just gone.
Yeah, and then the next day, a tornado wipes it away. Like,
yeah.
It's like, yeah, okay, I'll do another one. But right now, I guess if anybody's going through something like that, like, just give yourself some time. Like, don't wallow. But you need some time to go, that really sucked. And even sometimes, like if you're a believer, sometimes we get in the mindset of like, well, because I have Jesus, it's just going to make me feel all better and it's going to be okay. And I don't need to feel, it's like, it's okay to feel bad about it. That was a really crappy thing to happen.
A lot of people don't get how hard a lot of us have to fight sometimes to get through some of these difficulties. and everybody has difficulties. There's no easy way. You had a house, you actually bought a house, and then you sold it, made a little profit.
No, we walked away with, I think, about $40,000. So not nothing.
So you sold it because you moved away from the area.
Plus, that location specifically required a lot. Like if it was...
You sold yours after my property got broken into and the people stole all the kitchens, all the bathrooms. The wiring, the HVAC, the heating, cooling. They stole everything. So it's not a great place to leave a property.
Yeah. The number one thing for me right now is just managing my time. The key thing is when you don't have anything to work towards, you don't really have to think about how you spend 2 hours as much. But now it's like, okay, I get 2 hours today. I can blow that away. I can play Game Boy or whatever, fine. But if I want to move towards this thing, then this 2 hours has to count, and I have to work fast.
That you guys met with a financial counselor. What inspired that?
So we want to live in the Seattle area. That's where all the game jobs are. I think my mental concept of what we could afford was just off, you know? And actually a house came up. It was like $350,000 in my brain because I lived in Ohio. I'm like, that's a lot. But actually over there, that is basically nothing. So we decided to go to a financial advisor to see if at my current level of income, that's a remote possibility. And it's not. But while some people might be discouraged by that, I was actually encouraged for 2 reasons. Because it just kind of confirms, like, sometimes, you know, one of my fears is that I'm going to put all of my time and energy into something that's not going to pan out. And so sometimes, you know, when I'm working so hard on something, I want to make sure I'm on the right track. Like, I don't want to have to change directions later. But after that, it was like, yeah, you need a threshold. You need to make this amount of money to even think about living over there.
Yep.
And now I know, like, okay, well, the entry level for the types of positions I'm finding are right about there. So it's possible. I just got to stay focused. So to me, maybe it could have been discouraging to some to hear, like, you're not even close to your income level. But to me, it was actually encouraging because I'm like, well, I'm on the right track, though. I've been working on that for a while, and I'm getting closer every day. So, yeah.
I think it's genius.
Where's the action camera? That one. I want to address the young people out there, maybe the old people too. I don't know. But if you're like me, I'm 29 and I've been like inching my way into adulthood for about 10 years now, you know, just slowly coming to the realization that I'm an adult. And meeting with a financial advisor was one of those things I thought was going to be like hard and scary and a little bit demoralizing because I'm like, I work a terrible job. So like, I know I can't really afford much, right? It was actually super easy. The guy we had was incredible, very encouraging, but it also was a great dose of reality. And it took away, what I like is it took away all the question marks. Like we know exactly what we can afford. We know some options we can have if we get to a certain point. And so to me, it was just great. It was motivating. And so I would recommend, like if you're in your 20s, like just go talk to somebody. They're really easy to get a hold of. They will make it easy for you. So don't even worry about it. It's like to this day, I still hate like talking to people on the phone or whatever, like calling my bank. Like, I don't know. And so does my wife. She always makes me do it. But this is one of the easier like grown-up moves that you can do that will help a lot. So go do it.
So getting a financial counselor, advisor, a lender, because they're going to be the ones who make the final decision. They're kind of the same person in a way. Mm-hmm. Get a real estate agent, because that real estate agent's going to give you an idea of the market.
I know one.
But that real estate agent is going to know the houses.
Yeah.
The financial consultant and the lender are going to know the money side. You need both. And so anybody that wants to buy a house a year, it's so doable. You just need to start talking to those people, because you become like the group of people you surround yourself with, and they're going to give you insight and tricks how to make this happen. The next house you buy will be your residence, and you'll probably have a 3 to 5% down loan. 10, 12, it's $11,000.
Yeah.
So you need to come up with $11,000 to put down for your own personal residence. That's the next goal to get to. We can actually have the seller pay your closing costs. So really, that $11,000 to get into the house is all you need to get that first house. Then the next thing you do is you live in that house once you've closed for 1 year. And then you find a renter for that house. And then you do it again and you buy another house, but you actually get a bonus because you are renting the house you were just in for more than your monthly payment. And now you actually get a raise. It could be a raise of $200 a month. And that might not seem like a lot, but you do that 10 times. And they start getting paid off. And the rents go up. And now after 10 houses, you have a small fortune built up. And 10 times 200 is $2,000 a month bonus that you're getting. Plus rents have went up. So that's what I'm excited for you. I know you're going to pull this off.
Yeah, it is also motivating to have experienced it before where we could rent out 2 rooms at our old house.
Yes.
Like that was awesome.
What was your monthly payment? And then how much were you getting in rent?
It's actually really rude to discuss. You're gonna ask
Don't want
me
Jonathan
about,
to
you're
know.
gonna ask me about religion next? Or no, so I will say this. We had sort of an unfair advantage in the fact that we chose to live in a pretty hard area, so the costs were really low to begin with. And we also went through a house buying program. I mean, we were living in an area that was so tough that they're almost stopping short of paying people to live there. Like, so
But that's real.
But that is the thing. And if you're serious about this and you really just want to buy and get in there, I would check out Ohio. I mean, it's pretty great. But yeah, so our monthly mortgage, like after all the taxes and stuff, I think was floating around $550, and then we were renting rooms out for, I think, like including all the Wi-Fi and all that stuff, about $300 a piece. So yeah, so we easily covered our mortgage, and we're basically living rent free, which is how we were able to save up so much when we moved here. So yeah,
which is called a house hack. That's actually, so people ask me what's a house hack. That is exactly a house hack. You get the house paid for. Remember the time you were living in our house? You had a lot of goals. I asked you to write down 100 goals, and he did. He literally wrote 100 goals.
Yeah. You're lucky that I'm such a humble person. My life is an open book. I'm like Gandhi, but with more hair. So, yeah. So at that time, I was really excited by the supernatural. Nice goals like that. Oh, and I think I had some stuff on there too, like work with people in human trafficking, not to help them, but to get people out of it. We should clarify that. Yeah, and there were some really good like justice-oriented goals on there, but yeah, you had some questions for me after that.
You wrote in there was stuff you saw in the Bible, and you thought, I want to see this stuff in real life.
Funny thing is, you asked me this question that this honestly changed my life. I was dating who would become my wife at the time, and you're like, well, you're dating this Katie girl, right? Yeah. So do you think she wants to live in like a garage or maybe your car? And I was like, oh yeah, no, probably not. It's like, well, she's got to eat too, right? I was like, oh yeah, see, yeah. So all my goals changed immediately. Like, oh, I'm gonna need to figure some things out.
And then you did, and it was like a light turned on, and you went after it. For you, your own personal life, how has that progressed?
Sure, I think it's 3-pronged. One is my attention was not on myself any longer. It's a lot easier to get away with stuff if you are only responsible for yourself. You can put things off, whatever. But as soon as you have kids or a wife, or really there's any sort of dependence in your life, all of a sudden you have to grow up. You have to figure some stuff out. And that's still happening to me, honestly. But it's been an evolution of growing into like the role of a father and a husband. I can't just do what I want with my life anymore. And that includes burying my head in the sand when it comes to things like finances or whatever. The other is time management. And again, that's also related to being married. But just realizing like, at one point I could say, yeah, I'll go to so-and-so's house whenever I feel like it. And then maybe later I'll go skip in the fields and I could do whatever I want. But now, again, my life is full. So I have to really If I want to do something, I have to think about how it's going to affect my wife, how it's going to affect my kids, how it's going to affect my other engagements, and I have to think about it. So I carry a planner, a paper planner, and I love it. That really helps me organize my thoughts. Third one, and this may be a little bit more personal. I don't know. Hopefully this applies to some people, but I realized that I was into a lot of escapism. I didn't realize it, but I was constantly filling my time with things that were they were making it easy for me to bury my head in the sand, as I said, like whether that be video games or music or even I hate to say it for some people, even God. God is here to fill your life and walk in relationship with you, but he's not here to suck you out of your situation. He's not a genie, right? He's here to work with you on the ground towards whatever your goal is, right? But I realized that I was using that as a way to not have to think about my future and not have to think about my practical life. So once I realized I was doing that, I started shifting the conversation. Well, God, you want to help me with my actual natural life. So how do I get started on that? And I started to have a more grounded focus. But maybe that's not everybody. For a lot of people right now, it's like the internet. It's it's video games. It's trying to, I don't know, you're trying to be an influencer or whatever. There's a real life that's beautiful and worth living, but it's not going to wait for you. You got to get it. And the less time you spend trying to escape from the hardship of it, the better off you'll be.
Nice. So. You know the Truman Show, where they follow Jim Carrey around and
I keep hearing about it, but I've never watched it.
So you're going to be my version of the Truman Show, hopefully, where we just follow your story.
Yeah.
I'd like to just have people be able to follow your story. Like, all right, he's now got the job, and now he's got approved, and now they're looking at 3 houses, and now I would like to follow that process and keep people updated on Cole Harmon and let people see the process, because it's kind of fun to see other people do it and they can follow you. Would you be okay with that?
Yeah, absolutely. Okay, so quick rundown of my socials. So I have Instagram because I'm a millennial. Instagram, so it's at Harmon Cole, HarmonCole. There's my professional website for all of my game development related stuff. So if you're out there and you're listening and you work for EA or Bethesda or something, it's www.coleharmon.xyz, because that was only a penny on GoDaddy.
Oh.
And
I think it'd be a fun journey, especially the people who are wanting to buy a house a year, to learn from your mistakes and my mistakes, teaching and going through this. But we want to bring a whole bunch of people through this process. And in 20 years, it'd be amazing to see all these people come together someday to say, I bought a house a year for 10 years and we've changed our family's legacy.
That's really what it comes down to, is providing a legacy for my kids. Like, even if you're out there and you don't have kids, like, even if you don't think you will, you just start thinking about who's coming after you. And one big shift that happened to me, just thinking back to your other question actually, is what are people going to say about me when I die? And what am I going to leave for the people who come after me? And if I keep going on the track I'm going on, it's not going to be much. So I don't want that.
Yeah.
So that changes how I live my today.
And I'm so passionate about this buy a house a year thing because I was on this track and then I gave them all away because we were doing good things. And I remember we talked earlier today about like what we give away. It's not always wise to give everything away. It's a good heart, but not wise.
Yeah, generosity. That's a huge core value to me. And I think it's really good to have a generous heart, but it's also good to have wisdom. And if you think about it, like, if you don't have much to give, it's okay to be generous. But if you really want to be generous, you need to think about how you want to maximize what you do have so that you have more to give away. And there's been more than once in my life where I've shot myself in the foot being super generous and then realizing, well, I'm actually ultimately cutting down my impact on people's lives because I think it's been said, like, God gives you the seed, right? You need some of that for your own bread, and then you can give away more. But if you're not eating, you're going to die. And then what? Nobody gets your seed. So it's just important to think about, sometimes it feels selfish maybe to like think about building your own sort of empire, right? But ultimately, I'm heading that direction because I want to maximize what I can give to the world. So, yeah.
Yeah, one time I saw Cole actually, we're talking to this lady, and out of nowhere he goes, "Oh, I'll give you my car." Wait, you do what? He gave the lady his car. Yep.
Well, I'll give you, so let me give you two quick, tying back into what you asked me about what changed my mind. So I'll tell you why I wouldn't do that now. My adult brain kicking in for two reasons. One, I didn't have a car, and I lived in a city where you needed a car. Okay, great. He has a car, but now I need a car. So they actually basically traded me. They gave me this terrible, terrible old Saturn that barely ran. And what I also didn't take into account was at the time I was living with JR while going to school. So you know who suffers from me giving away my car? It's not just me. It's also JR who's got to drive my butt around all the time now, right? So everything you do has a ripple effect on the people in your life. And case in point, that car didn't have a working gas meter. So one time I asked JR if he could take the car home for me because I was going to be doing something with a friend. And I didn't know how much gas I had. And the car died on JR and he had to walk a couple miles home. So
Totally worth it.
Right. So I would think twice about doing that now.
Well, with that, Cole, I think we did pretty good. I'm JR, and I'm your real estate friend. We'll see you in the next video.
And I'm Herb McGurdy. This has been Action 5 Channel News Explosion. Good night.